With the current trend of layoffs affecting our industry, I'm curious about how leaders handle the difficult decisions of whom to let go. While it's straightforward to address low performers, the reality is that cuts often extend to potentially high performers as well. This becomes even more complex when the directive comes from higher up, such as a board or CEO, rather than being a decision initiated by the leader themselves. You've never had to
Never. Yeah.
execute
Yeah.
on a layoff, have you, Meg?
Yeah.
How many times do you think?
Oh, good
Yeah,
Lord.
I don't know.
Far too many. Far too
Yeah,
many. I
definitely.
think I think if I were to net it out, I would say it's probably been like every other year of my leadership
Yeah.
life. So a couple things. I do think it's important in this moment that there's probably two sets of listeners that are tackling this, right? There's the listeners who maybe have recently either been let go themselves or have somebody really close to them that's been let go, and there's a ton of emotion and stuff to work on there. And then there's the people that got handed a like make a decision, which is what this question is asking. I would like to speak to both just a little bit because I feel like this is a big topic. So number one, the reality is that it probably at some point in your career, potentially multiple times, this will happen to you. And I think it is very, very important to recognize that this is not a failing of your skills or abilities, and this is not an indictment on your ability to be a great worker. This is a indication of market complexity and bad luck or bad timing or wherever you happen to be in that moment. And so I want to remind all of us, and this is people making these choices and people impacted by these choices, that I have yet to see this experience happen where eventually, as the entire story plays out and the person ends up doing whatever they end up doing next, that they did not find some benefit for having had these kinds of changes. It does work out. And I say this not to diminish the choice of having to choose who goes, but like it is helpful to remind yourself that, you know, there is opportunity and it does work out for people. And so while it's awful and it's difficult and it's emotional, it is also something that you really can benefit from saying, what will this look like a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Because I think that gives you some grounding and context. So I just want to start there and then I'll go more. I don't know, Amy, if you want to reflect on that part of it.
Yeah, I think that's really, really well stated, Meg. I'm obviously always a fan of whatever you say most of the time. I mean, other than, when you're bugging me, but but generally speaking, really good. Um, yeah, I like that very optimistic attitude. Just, in terms of like how we make decisions, right? I mean, so, you've probably heard of the, like, who would you keep in the boat, in a life-saving situation. And that's kind of the ideal scenario, but it's really difficult because, in my experience as a manager or as a leader, like everyone in the boat has a different set of talents and a different set of strengths. And it's not, sure, there might be like the 10x person, but whatever, that's one person out of a 10-person boat, and you need to reduce by 2 people. Obviously that 10x person isn't going to go, but like who of the other 9? All of the other 9 have incredible strengths. They have incredible talents. They're making your team better, etc. It's possible there might be one that is struggling and that's obvious, but if you need 2 more, who are those going to be? And that's really hard. So what I have done in the past is to look at, I guess, to some degree what Meg was saying, is who is potentially going to benefit from this. Because I, as a leader, I am a leader of that person for life, not for just this job, right? I mean, obviously I want my boat to have great outcomes, but I don't necessarily, losing one strength versus another is, it's going to affect the boat one way or another. So, I look at, okay, well, who might actually benefit from leaving, right? Whether it's because they've been there a long time.
They've outgrown their role, yeah.
They need a new experience, or maybe there's just kind of like not the best fit, or they're, maybe they're a little burnt out, or, like just something like those kinds of intangibles, I would say, are a bit of how I'm looking at it. So that would be kind of like my compassionate coach approach to selecting those individuals, and even so, it's super hard.
It's super hard, and I would say a couple other things. It's never like, no matter what seat you sit in, you're never in the, oh yes, I want to get rid of 3 people mindset. In fact, there is a forcing function that's outside of your own comfort zone. So first off, like, I think just acknowledging that is important. It will always be really hard, number one. Number two, I think, to Amy's point, understanding what's the best future for the people that work for you matters. I think the other thing is what is the challenge ahead of you, not the challenge you've had up until now. And so oftentimes, if it's significantly a big problem, what I will do is I will spend a lot of time getting grounded on what am I going to do differently with a smaller team, because it's going to be less and it's probably going to be different. And who do I need to help achieve that new remit? And so I start also with that. What is the future place this boat has to go? And what skills and strengths and capabilities and energy do I need to help us get there? And then I'm making a decision about placing people into those new slots versus suggesting something about their work is deficient or not needed anymore.
So a bit of a Patty Azzarello reference too, which is like, figure out your future org, figure out your future setup. How are you, and that starts with like, what are the work outcomes? Again, what is it that you need to accomplish? What are the strategies, et cetera? And then figure out, okay, well, what's your org structure? And that may be just, you're a new leader, there's been a big change, or it could be that there's a layoff, some sort of triggering event to have you figure out that future org setup, and who and what skills you really need for that future.
The other thing to remember is most of the time you have very little time to make these decisions. I've seen them come through where you had to figure it out in 24 hours. Yeah. And so the one thing I would also encourage is that the pre-work happens well before you get handed any sort of remit, whether it's to the positive of expanding and growing a team or to the negative of reducing a team. So it is your job as a leader to get very clear on who works for you, what are they great at, where do they want to grow, where are their sort of aspirations for opportunity, and how can you best map that against this problem, so that when you're forced with this, okay, you've got 24 hours to make a decision, you're bringing more to the table than just this is where they work and this is their salary and this is how long they've been here.